Hi, I'm Mattson, and I'm here today for Tactical to Practical to bring you some of the tools and techniques that we're using out west that formerly we used in our treasure diving operations here in Florida. Out west we have what's known as placer deposits. Those are deposits of gold by Mother Nature in the stream beds out there, and they go in predictable patterns. Usually in a straight stretch of stream, you'll see the gold line moving along either side of the high pressure water, which is in the center of the river. In a bend in the river, the gold deposits will lay on the back side of the inside bends of the river, and you can verify that for yourself by looking for where the bars are. Naturally, they do set up on the back side of the inside bends of the stream. Those are the low pressure areas. Low pressure areas also set up behind a boulder or a rock. Anything that's in a 45-degree angle, that'll tumble the water and create a low pressure area behind it, and the gold will settle in these areas. Now, what we're doing that's different with our treasure diving skills in Florida is we're taking depth sounders and using them to find the boulders that are in the 45-degree angles that'll hold gold. We can also take and we can check the hardness of the bottom with these things and find the cracks. Now, once we find a crack, we simply take and dredge the material out of that crack, the gold out of the crack, and we find the gold line with a metal detector. And then once we have the gold line identified, we'll take and keep moving up the cracks in the stream from crack to crack, going right on up and taking the gold out. Now, I have recently taken 6 pounds of gold from the South Umpqua River using this technique. It works, and you can too. Now, the piece of equipment that we use to vacuum the gold from the bottom of the stream is called a suction dredge, and it's the same type of principle that was used in World War II to cut out the harbors over in the Bahamas and where there were none before. Now, instead of using a cutter head dredge as they use, we use just the modern suction dredge.
As a young boy,
let's take a look at a dredge and see what that's like.
George Massey appear on the Merv Griffin show, showing off over 800 ounces of gold that he'd found in the California mother lode. And now, 30 years later, I find myself out west using all of the skills that I have as a treasure diver to do the same thing underwater. It's a chance to use my treasure diving, electronic skills, map reading, satellite imagery, all the skills that can be used to find the pathways of gold in these underwater rivers. Now, these dredges are equipped with hooker rigs so we can stay down for an extremely long period of time, and pressure water so we can blast the gold off the bottom, which I'm doing here. The gold tends to stick, so we need pressure water to take it off. We make these pilings which the fish use as their spawning beds later in the season. The trout and the salmon will come in and they'll use those piles to spawn in. Now let's see what we've found in today's activity. There's a nugget. I'd call that a nugget anyway. That's looks like kind of like a snake. See if we can find anything else. A lot of our bigger stuff, it'll drop right out on this plate. Oh man. Oh, that's a bit. One of the ones I saw coming up earlier. Now, that's very unusual for the Umpqua. You have a front section here where most of your gold is going to drop out. But it also has this lower screen section. You see that? That screen. There's actually a set of riffles down below here. And what we're doing is we're taking the fine gold, dropping it through the screen here into the lower section. And when it gets into the lower section here of riffles, it's in low volume water, if you will. And that makes our fine gold. Gives it a way to hang there in the box. Now, I don't know if you can see all this gold in here. See all that fine? It's fine flakes, and they're right up in the front here. They're just not going anywhere in this slow water movement. Here's another one. I'll bring it down so you can see it right there, and it's just impregnated with gold. Now, folks, while we're shut down here, I thought I'd just walk out and show you in detail how a dredge works. See, we have an engine driving a pump, and it's picking up its water through an intake. Now, the screen on the intake is to keep leaves out, not fish. It doesn't have the power to pick up fish down on the intake of the pump. What you have inside the pump is an impeller on the inside right here, and the impeller is nothing more than an engine driven water wheel, and it takes water in and slings it around the outside of the housing and out through this hose, and we go down and shoot the pressure water into a tube, and that water is now traveling towards the sluice box, which creates a section on the nozzle end of the hose. Now, there's where you have your reel suction, and you saw in the previous clip when I was dredging down underwater with my dredge, there's fish all around the suction nozzle. So if fish can't be pulled into the actual suction nozzle, you know, they have no chance of being sucked into the pump. And if they did, if perchance something was sucked into the pump, it goes again in, around. It doesn't go through the impeller and get chopped up. It goes around. It's going to take this wild ride right on through the hose, the pressure hose, up the tube, out the back end, over the sluice. And if anything, if they're going to get killed, that's when they get killed, would be when they get ate by the bass. They're waiting on the end of the dredge. Now, as our material goes through, this is a three-stage box, one of the older style keens, and this box up here is called a header box, also called a crash box by some, because the material will come in to that box and be dropped down on this plate. And when the material drops down onto the plate, the little fine gold drops through the plate and goes into these side boxes, and it gets a chance to filter out in the slower water flow. Whereas your heavier materials, your bigger materials, will roll out across the center box, and they're in a relatively high pressure water flow, and that's where your bigger pieces would separate out. And this is a good unit for fine gold, no question about it. If there's any faults to it at all, it would be for deep dredging. When you go deep, you don't have the chance to always check your box like you normally would in shallow. And if you get some material built up in one of the side boxes, it tends to tilt the machine, and then, which even exacerbates the problem. You get even more buildup in the side box, and you come up and you get most of your material is building up in one box instead of the thing being level. But other than that, and that's a rare problem, other than that, these are excellent units for fine gold.